Welcome to Higher Caliber, where each week we dive into the backstory and history of the people and companies that keep America running.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Higher Caliber. I know it's been a while since we've been on. Today I'm sitting down with Dustin Hoptry and Tim Center. Yes, my brother Tim Center. And my brother from another mother, Dustin. So, Tim, why don't you go ahead and give everybody your background. What do you do for a living? What do you like to do? And then we'll move over to Dustin, and then we can get this thing cracking.
All right, well, hi, everybody. My name's Tim. I'm Jerrod's brother. How far in my background would you like?
Start from the beginning.
Well, July 13th, 1987, I was born. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, I'm originally from the Lucas area. That's where we grew up, went to school. Graduated in 2005, I think. Seems like a long time ago, but I'm still pretty young compared to some people, I guess. But
the one guy sitting here.
Dustin's the old fart in the room. Anyway, I graduated in 2005. Started going to college, OSU, for business, because that's what my dad did at the time.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to be rich. I thought money was the answer. I did about a year of college, and I realized it just wasn't for me. I still hated school.
Really fucked that up.
Yeah. I just wasn't interested. I didn't like... And that was only the general classes or whatever.
When did you decide, how far in did you get when you decided you weren't going to do that anymore?
Maybe even halfway through, maybe a couple semesters. So I played collegiate paintball for Ohio State. I really enjoyed that. So honestly, I probably went a semester or two just to stay on the paintball team. But yeah, school, it just wasn't for me. So, so I played paintball for Ohio State for a little bit. Like I said, we traveled all over the place, went to nationals and all that good stuff. I dropped out of Ohio State. Well, I quit going. I guess you call it dropped out. Whatever. I did not obtain a degree, but I decided I wanted to go to the fire academy because my dad was also a firefighter and paramedic. Growing up, I grew up in a firehouse, so I'm like, yeah, we'll give that a try. So I went to the fire academy down in Reynoldsburg. Lived down there for a couple months, something like that. You've been down there. Couple months.
Yeah.
Went down there.
It was less time when you went. It was actually 240 hours when you went.
No, it was actually 315.
Oh, never mind.
So, I'm sure it's more than that now. But I went down there. Every single day we lived down there in dorms. And it was a great experience. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. I mean, you'll learn a lot of important things, but just to live and breathe that atmosphere, like, Monday through Friday, all day.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So anyway, I did that, graduated from there, and I noticed that kind of doing the fire thing, even though, you're living it and doing it, you're not just going to college or going to high school. It was something I excelled in because I think I was interested in it. So I actually wanted to learn the things, and I think that was a big thing for me.
And I don't know if you said you were already on the local fire department.
Oh, no. Yeah. Let me back up. Yeah. When I was 14, I believe, I joined my local fire department as an explorer. And as an explorer, you don't get to do all the cool things, that firemen can do. But, you get to go there and hang out with the guys, and you can roll hose and do all that stuff. But, you're involved, but you're not, super involved, I guess. So I did that when I was 14. And like I said, the passion and everything, it really just grew. So I kind of knew that's what I wanted to do, So when I graduated the fire academy, that was probably in 06 or 07. I think it was 06. Got out of there, realized I probably needed to get my EMT certification if I wanted to work anywhere as a job, because here, at least in Ohio, you have to be, dual certified. You have to be a fireman. You have to be an EMT at least as well to work anywhere. So, started going down to our local EMS school, which was right where I lived in the same town. So it was really nice. I don't know if you want me saying names of places.
Go ahead.
I'll give them a plug. Central Ohio EMS training. Took my EMT basic there. That was a few months. Again, it was something that I excelled in because I was interested in it. Right. I don't want to say that I didn't really study. I didn't have to. Things just kind of came easier for me there. And when I didn't understand something, I went straight to our dad, who had been a paramedic for 30 years or something.
Do you think it was a good idea to get on Chantix while you were in medical school?
No.
Okay. I just have some insider information.
Yeah, I'll get to there. I'll get there. So anyway, I did EMT school. Wasn't too hard for me. You're stressed out a little bit, but honestly, it came easy. And then I decided to try and get on somewhere. And the first place I ever tested, I ended up getting hired part-time. Mm-hmm. And soon after that, I moved up to full-time status. So I was a career fireman and an EMT basic, but I also, right after I got my basic, I started in medic school at the same place. And it was nice because it was still in the same place that I lived. So I know some people travel, an hour to go to paramedic school. Right. And I had the convenience of it being 5 minutes away. So I did that. And I started working full time at this place. It was a busier department. And I spent a good part of 15 years there at that department as a full-time fireman. Got to see a lot of crazy stuff. Got to meet a lot of good people. And going back to your Chantix thing, I did try to quit smoking in the middle of medic school, and I will advise anybody, never try to give up any of your habits, any of your vices.
You actually need them.
Yeah,
they'll get you through
I tell people the things that got me through EMT and medic school wasn't studying and all that stuff. It was Philip Morris and Anheuser-Busch is what got me through. So I did that. I got married 2010, I believe, to Erica. We're still married. We've got 2 wonderful children, Cole and Tyler. So now I'm a full-time fireman. Also, we have the gun business. We got Fire Ridge. We have been doing that. Me and Dad started that when we were still in Lucas, I think.
I think it was 08.
08. Yeah, we started doing that. Some gunsmithing. Went to gunsmithing school. So I am a gunsmith. I'm a firearms instructor through the NRA. You all right, Dustin? I thought we weren't drinking on this podcast.
I'm having a moment.
I really like the shooting stuff. I try to dabble in the competitive shooting. Mm-hmm. Not near as good as I'd like to be. I think some people are natural born good shooters. I am not one of them. But I think that's interesting. I really enjoy it. I wish I could devote more time to that. Right. I kind of think of myself as a jack of all trades, master of none type thing. I like to know a little bit about everything, but I don't know everything about one thing, if you will. I like to fix my own stuff. I like to, just do whatever. So how's that for my background so far?
That was pretty detailed.
Is it detailed?
Yeah.
Okay.
D-Hop?
Well, first and foremost, I'm now extremely intimidated having to follow up that introduction. I was not prepared for Tim's extremely well-structured background.
That's your typical interview question. All right, where are you from?
My origin story is, I guess, a little bit more hazy and less functionally put together. I come from pretty much the same area as Tim, the Lucas area. I was raised in a EMS fire household, had a lot of the same blessings and opportunities that Tim and Jerrod had that helped cultivate both my personality, my lifestyle choices, and the directions in which I decided to pattern my learning mechanisms going forward. I mean, in a lot of ways, we're very similar. At a young age, I was participating in explorer capacities, if you will, on the fire department, and helping out anywhere from waxing and washing fire trucks to cleaning gear to refilling bottles and, doing all the stuff the young guys do on
The grunt work.
the grunt work, yeah, the cutting your teeth leg work, and earning your place there. And that's where you get the opportunity to hear all the old stories and have the old guys pass down knowledge and wisdom to you and correct you in the various fashions that you get corrected coming up as an adolescent on a fire department or EMS department.
And that's how you start a nicotine and caffeine addiction as a
It is.
12-year-old.
It's how you start a lot of addictions.
Yeah.
You learn about all the wrong women to date and all the wrong things to do, and you learn how to fix them from the people who went through all that stuff before you and learned how to fix it. And
Right.
after that, I did a brief stint from 2000 to 2008 in the Army, and had a few adventures along the way. Doing that, I think I got out right about the time you guys as family was starting your gunsmithing business.
About 08.
Yeah, around about that time. I think I got out.
So you got in pre 9/11.
I got in just before. Just before. Yeah.
So where were you? Where were you
to be
during
to be
9/11?
To be completely accurate, I entered the delayed entry program pre 9/11 and shipped out just after 9/11. I sat in the delayed entry program for just under a year.
So you signed, and then you were like, "Shit."
Yeah. Well, a more accurate representation would be that my foolishness of youth had me anticipating something that I could not been more farther from understanding the actuality of
Right.
its nature and how it functions. And you being a vet yourself, I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming from. I mean, I had absolutely no idea in any way, shape, or form what I was getting ready to walk towards or walk into. But due to the admonitions of youth, I was foolish enough to still be excited about it. And
Well, y'all already did the invasion for us, so I would already knew.
right, right, yeah. You had a few social media blurbs, I guess.
Yeah.
But did that for a spell, and I got out and came back home to a really well structured family system that honestly just fed me a lot of opportunities to learn. I did the college thing for a while, did the degree thing, certification, and various different things, EMS, fire, various instructor certifications here and there peppered all over the place. And I guess many of my decisions in life have been patterned just by people asking me to help them do something, and then figuring out that I have a gap in my skill set or my knowledge base, and then my personality style kind of lends itself towards being frustrated by not knowing something. So the family members, whether blood family or not blood family, who have been around me have given me the opportunity to learn and cultivate just so many skills. And that's one of the things I've always enjoyed doing. Your family has given me the ability to cultivate skills. So many other families, my family, my mother and father both, have given me the ability to cultivate a lot of skills. I am a prepper, but a lot of people think my prep mentality is a little odder than the usual person. A lot of people believe that you're prepped if you just have a safe full of ammo and
Right.
a basement full of food and water, whereas I prefer to consider the most valuable prepping skill the acquisition of skills and maintenance, and the ability to convert one thing into the other, or understand the intrinsic function or value of any given device or machine so you can use it later. Eventually you're going to run out of food, and you're going to have to know how to make a car turn into a washing machine. And
Right.
this type of
But you have a skill a lot of people don't have. When you started doing this, YouTube didn't exist, so you had to read books.
For sure. And I still am foolish enough to read books for some reason still today. The kids tease me about stuff like that, and how I absorb knowledge and this, that, and the other thing. It is another generation that's moved past me, and I do have an older style of learning,
Right.
that's compensated by a lot of weird aspects of my personality.
You've always been a tinkerer.
I have. I think that's a good way to put it. And the people around me, look, I'll be honest with you. As a youth, my mentality was frustrating to anybody who was responsible for providing care or supervision to me. That's the truth.
He just turned our lawnmower into a washing machine.
Exactly. But the people, whether it was your dad or my mom or dad or whomever, was caring for me, always gave me the leeway to explore and develop a lot of different skill sets and mentalities and learning processes. And I was never the type of kid who structured well in the traditional cookie cutter learning environment. And the moment I was turned loose from that, I acquired more knowledge in the first 2 years being out of that process than I ever did in the first 12 years I was smashed into it. And, that's me. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else in that mechanism, but I've just been all over the place, and I've been blessed to have the opportunities to learn a lot of things and help a lot of people. And I don't really consider myself anybody special. I just will be happy if tomorrow I get up and help the neighbor do something fun.
What do you do now?
I do a lot of stuff now. Any specific capacity, or just list everything that I do now?
No, I mean, what is your 90% of your day consist of?
Every day is a little different, but a vast majority of my weekly structured time is commanding a fire department. I'm a chief of a fire department. I sit on 2 different boards. I hold multiple EMS and fire instructor certifications, as well as
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I still have my EMS instructor, but the state of Ohio has decided to.
We'll talk. We'll get into that later. We'll talk a little bit about it.
That's a whole thing. Make life difficult. But I hold instructor disciplines in a lot of things outside of EMS and fire as well. I teach at the schools. I teach teaching isn't the right word, but I proctor a GED program through our fire department, where we take a lot of local kids, and we effectively, the long and short of it is we tutor them. We tutor them in the capacities that they need to be in the 4 master class subjects: history, literature,
STEM.
language, spelling, mathematics, and grammar, in order to pass the 2 local GED programs, one at Madison Adult Education and one at Mansfield Adult Education. We've been pretty successful with that. We've actually been able to give a lot of young fellas and one young lady who would not have had access to EMS fire education that opportunity by completing those GED programs. And a couple other kids have gone on to pattern good employment in industrial bases from being able to do that. And that's a thing that I try to handle and watch for that as well. I spend a lot of time doing grants. I spend a lot of time doing the ever-increasing list of rules and regulations that the state imposes on structured firehouses. And that, I do a lot of it. I've tampered down a lot. I have less time for tinkering. I do a lot of administrative functions in a lot of capacities, and the schools ask me for help with a lot of stuff. And that, yeah.
You wear a lot of hats, for sure.
Yeah, I wear... I wouldn't say I wear them perfectly or I wear them well all the time, but
you
yes,
just have
I
them
do.
in the closet.
I have them hats. I have some hats, yeah.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So these people that you're helping with the GED, do you make them sign a contract that they're going to stay at the fire department?
No. No.
I didn't know if you
I
had.
just assumed that was written in.
Yeah, I just assumed, so you can keep some people around.
No. So this whole thing with the GEDs, as unofficial as it is, it really didn't start as a way at all to get people on the fire department. It started from a root of me being frustrated with the education process and the standardized education process. As a person who went through the standardized education process and really struggled with it myself, and I've seen how it's changed over the years, and it's become worse. It's much, much worse than it was when I was involved in that process. And I see a lot of kids who have a lot of capacity for intellect and skill development and knowledge development in that system just getting chewed up in a meat grinder, and the opportunities are not given to them to do what they need to do because they have to fit into a metric that they're not designed to meet. So if you can give them the opportunity to get past that last hurdle, which is access to a diploma or GED, then you effectively pave a path that they can push forward on based on their own choices for the rest of life. If they're motivated, they can get past that hurdle. So you just help them get over that hurdle, and then, the hope is that they get out there and are able to facilitate their own, specific brand of life development and blaze their own path, if you will.
Right.
And none of that is, if they turn around and they decide that EMS and fire is a cool thing they want to do, I mean, hey, that's awesome. I'll cultivate that direction for you. I'll give you that access. But if they turn around and decide they want to be a tree climber or an ice fisherman for the rest of their life, well, if I have the capacity, I'm gonna send them in that direction. But no contractual obligations. Just
it's a tutoring service.
Yeah, just trying to invest back in humans who seem like if you could give them the capacity to invest themselves, that they would also invest in other humans.
That's nice.
Yeah. Pay it forward, I guess.
Yeah. Well, how many of them have become part of your roster? Just curious.
2 of them have become part of my roster, and 11 of them have successfully completed the GED process. Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk to you guys about retention in the fire service. I don't know how many places you go that people don't know you. They're like, I bet COVID was the hardest thing for you guys, and what'd you have to do? You got any insight you can tell people on like what the status quo was before COVID and now, kind of like what happened? Why do you think nobody's being firemen anymore? Do you have any input on that?
You want to take the lead on that, Tim? I'll follow up on you.
Yeah. Well, I think, I think me and Dustin probably see kind of the same things, but maybe in different circumstances. I'm on a career department, full-time fireman.
Yeah.
And Dustin's, you guys aren't part-time yet, are you?
No, 100%.
100% volunteer. So, we're talking about different people, different employees here. But, at least on my end, I used to joke that nobody wants to be a fireman anymore, but I think it's true.
Especially now.
It's a whole new ball game, at least on the career side. Obviously, I think my mic cut out. No, I'm good. Okay, sorry. I'm not used to talking in these things. Anyway, the generation, I know people talk about the kids today and the youth today and how things are different, but, when I was young, when I was 18, 19 years old, I wanted to be a fireman. Like, I was that jolly volley that, wanted to go out to all the emergencies and help people, and you don't see that drive very often anymore.
And that's what I was going to say. There's not a huge difference when it comes to the people that end up in career, because most of the time they started volunteer.
Right.
So if you're not getting those people at least interested that don't need to take 2 years of certifications to just see what it's about.
Right.
If they're not even coming to Dustin, chances are they're not going to make it.
Well, and even the people now, the kids, I call them kids. I've been in the fire service for, full time, working on 16 years now. I think 15, 16. I call them kids now. But the kids that are coming in now, I don't see that drive. I don't see them, at least half interested as what I and the other people that came in with me in the fire service itself. The fire service is very rich in history and tradition and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's part of us, not passing down that history and knowledge and tradition, or if it's just they don't care.
Right.
But it's definitely not there anymore. And granted, being a career, it becomes a job. I had a captain tell me that, when I went from part-time to full-time, that it definitely becomes a job. And it does. Things change, but it's still the best job in the world. And I don't think that the younger guys see that. I think they might think that it's just another job. Hey, the schedule's cool. We work every third day, but they don't see that, and I really think it's becoming a big circle of how things used to be. So when I first started, it was super hard to get a fire job, right? Because typically you test through civil service, and I never personally saw it, but I would always hear that 100 guys would sit for one open position, right?
Can you explain civil service?
So civil service, typically it's with municipalities like cities, and they have to follow the civil service commission, right? So the civil service will put on and they administer a test, and it's typically a general knowledge test, and you get scored off of that, and then there's also bonus points for that. No, you can have bonus points for if you were in the military, if you went to college. I've even seen some if you were, you lived in the city or whatever, but they'll give you bonus points for that stuff. And then ultimately you're ranked by that test, and sometimes there's a physical agility test. But the Civil Service Commission basically takes care of all the testing procedures for the city or the municipality in order to establish a list of candidates to hire. Right. But yeah, back in the day, it was really hard to get a fire job. Like I said, you'd have hundreds of candidates for one or two positions, right? Today, at this day and age, it's not like that, right? And even before then, people didn't have certifications, right? And you didn't need them because people would hire you and then they'd send you to school, right? Well, when I was getting in the fire service, it was kind of turning the corner of, if you wanted a fire job, you needed to have your firefighter 2 card and your paramedic to even work there. They weren't going to, because money was tight, they weren't going to spend the money in the overtime to send you to school. Mm-hmm. You already had to be trained so you could go right to work. And that's what I did. I really got all my certifications before I got hired. At least I had them started. I did everything on my own. And I understand some people can't afford that, but now so many people, fire departments are hiring. I mean, you can go get a job anywhere, and now, like, what I've had to deal with is the lateral transfer process. That used to not be a thing. Lateral transfers are all over the place now. What's that?
It was like a golden egg opportunity.
Yeah, it's crazy. You heard of a couple places doing it. But now I feel like almost everybody's offering a lateral transfer. Yeah. Because we're all in the same pension system, Ohio Police and Fire, typically. But I left the place that I worked for 14, 15 years full time, and I took all of my service credit, all my sick time and everything, and I went to another place as a lateral transfer, and I'm making more money. Mm-hmm. Why not? And I didn't go because of the money, but for people out there that are, they're working their jobs, but hey, I can go across the street or go wherever you want and go make more money or be in a better atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Why not? So I think people are we're going to run out of firemen. We're going to have to hire new people, that don't have experience. And I think people are going to have to start offering, to hire these people and then send them to school. I think it's going to come full circle, Yeah.
And I've heard this goes in cycles.
Right.
5 years when somebody started, they couldn't get firemen, so they sent them to school, and then 5 years, 10 years go by, and then it's like you said, and then it just keeps repeating.
Yeah, but there's that drive to be a fireman anymore is just not there. Mm-hmm. It's lost.
And do you think entry level people, at least my opinion, entry level people don't see it being worth it, especially when COVID started?
Yeah,
because they could stay home, or they could be in an ambulance taking COVID patients.
Sure, I thought COVID was a very interesting experience for me. So, I'd already been in, EMS, being a patient care, provider and all this stuff for a while. And then COVID come around, right? And I really don't want to get into politics, but, there's a lot of misinformation out there being, thrown all over the place. And it was, you were kind of, to me, it was like you knew that you were going to have to be dealing with something, but there was a lot of unknowns out there, right? There was a lot of fear. And I think, it really wore on some people out there because, every year you get your fit test for your N95 mask, or you get issued an N95 mask. Like, we used to issue those things, right? Like when I worked at the hospital in the ER, you were issued an N95, right?
You might have to wear this one day.
And you never, and you didn't know why, right? There's no training on that. It's just like, here, this is yours. And then, one day you're like, I have to wear this every single day of my life on every call I ever go on. And I didn't get to the point of it, but I know some departments had to wear those at the station.
Yeah, a lot of did.
And you weren't allowed to eat meals together and this, that, and whatever. And I mean, you spend 33% of your life at the firehouse, right? Every third day. So that becomes your family.
Yeah.
And if you can't even hang out with your family, like normal, like it really it wears on you. And then you hear on the news, all these people are dying, like in New York, they got semi trucks full of dead bodies and freezers and all this crap. It's like, oh, it's coming closer, right? Then you start running on COVID patients, and it just, I think the mental aspect of it just really wears you down. So I mean, for people that were new in this, they just graduate EMT school, and here's your N95, and here's your goggles and all this other crap. I think that would be very mentally taxing for them, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them for leaving, especially with McDonald's paying what, $14-15 an hour now.
Yep.
They weren't making that,
right?
Especially these private ambulance people, and I don't know what their numbers are like. I think that's a whole different ballgame too. But I mean, I can only imagine who would want to deal with that. Why not go home and stay in your house and let the government pay you?
Especially when you hear people like representatives from Congress saying maybe we should just have them do like chickenpox parties. All the EMS providers.
I think that was in Florida.
Yeah, it was Florida.
They said let's get them all infected, so at least they've been exposed, and then we don't have to worry about them.
Yeah.
If they die, they die, right? Who knows? But yeah, it was a crazy time.
Did you experience a bunch of people leave or?
Yeah. For
they didn't have a standard paycheck writing on whether they
right. So first of all, I agree with every single thing that Tim just said. COVID was an accelerant for every single form of economic and governmental malfunction that was existing at a low level. COVID threw nitroglycerin gasoline on it. Yeah. And it either accelerated or exacerbated every system that was already overly strained and about to fail. It immediately made it fail. And some of those things are, and I hesitate to use the term, COVID really separated the people who wanted to be in this industry from the people who were just here for a paycheck or a hero mentality. Because the truth is, it's easy to say that in the first 6 months watching the outer layers of the industry shed off and fall away. But many of those people wanted to be here. They wanted to be here for the right reasons. They wanted to help people. But COVID, on top of the conditions of the economy, and again, not to get into too many politics here, but the politics of failure with the economy, the politics of failure with lack of access to housing, the affordable housing, the politics of the economy when it comes to lack of access to initial education, requiring people to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars up front for an initial education that doesn't reimburse you at any point in time in a career field you're entering into. You may pay as high as, in some programs in the state, you may pay as high as $18,000 for your initial EMS basic and then your paramedic education, and then you can pay as high as $7,000 for your extended fire academy trainings, depending on what you design into that, what other additional things you want to have. And you ask people to do all that not for a program where you're guaranteed to, one, not even guaranteed to get a job, where you are accepting a demonstrous amount of daily operational risk on not only your personal health, but your body and your mental health and your family's mental health. But you will not adequately be financially compensated in your pay to make up for that initial cost investment. And Tim made a good comment earlier about how you see people who will go to some of the most stressful educational academies to learn how to manage your life, to keep you alive in your absolute worst condition, your worst time in your life, and they will show up there as the solution to your problem. They're there to keep you alive. They're there to be the do-all, end-all between you and what comes after this, and to stop that from happening. And those people economically are respected, and I'm not saying a fast food worker doesn't deserve respect, but they're economically compensated and respected less than a teenage fast food worker, but they are expected to have the knowledge of a doctor. They're expected to have the life-saving skills of a surgical physician. They are expected to have the opportunities and equipment and options of the single best technical extrication rescue experts on earth. And in no way, shape, or form are they even remotely close to being compensated for those capacities, because that takes time. It takes money. It takes investment and cultivation. And it's not like you can just go to school for once and know that for the rest of your career. Everybody in this career knows that the more technical specifications you acquire in your career development, the more time you have to put into maintaining continuing education, continuous time investment. That's time that's taken away from other forms of income. It's time that's taken away from your family, your wife, your children, your other life responsibilities. I'd have to sit down and add up, but the amount of time that I spend every year maintaining my various certifications is demonstrous. It's not comparable to almost any other job field in existence outside of the medical professions. And all of that is time that's given away with no return on investment.
Right.
And you look at these young kids, like Tim said, volunteer EMS and fire was one of the largest gateways into this industry. And with the collapse of the economy and its various capacities just before COVID, not giving people the ability to afford access to that gateway, and townships and local governments and municipalities not adequately reimbursing people or offering to pay for that initial education, that was the first hammer. That was the first axe drop on recruitment and retention. After that was the fact that almost every politician in any municipality or township showed their hand immediately, in that they cared more about legal liabilities than they did about the actual safety, protection, and provision of their other manpower. That's a huge one. And it's hard to blame people for the 24-hour cyclical constant attempt to adapt to a non-structured threat that nobody realistically understands. And I understand that leadership at the department levels, at the governmental level, at the governmental agency levels, from the CDC and everything else, everybody's swinging in the dark, with very limited.
It's one of those.
I like that, swinging in the dark.
It's one of those rare things where the younger guys like me looking up to leadership, like, what do we do about this? And then being like, watch the news. I don't know. Yeah. Do what the CDC says. I don't know what to tell you.
A lot of people didn't know we didn't know anything, right?
As a libertarian fire chief,
That's his new Twitter handle.
I took a lot of flack from a lot of people in the first year of COVID before we adapted to a more adequate expectancy of what could happen. I took flack from fire chiefs, government officials, medical directors, county public health officials, and I challenged their requirements, because government entities and government leaders are always overly reactive to any capacitance or measurement of that, because they care more about liability or what could happen to them as a result of that versus actually protecting their people. And I tended almost always to err more on the side of making this job still functional for my people to do versus overburdening them with unproven, unneeded, unnecessary, ridiculous regulatory capacities, which were everywhere from every direction. I mean, you could There was a point where regulatory agencies didn't want people to go out unless they were in full level 1A SCBA response capacities, which is utterly ridiculous. And in the middle of that, you throw the fact that almost every single department's call volume at minimum doubled overnight. So the workload capacity greatly increased, no reimbursement, no additional practical systems were put in place to increase the wear and tear on your vehicles, your equipment, yourself, your life, your lifestyle, your educational needs, and the fire family began to become overtaxed. And it fell apart, and the support systems that traditionally existed, the brotherhood that traditionally existed to pick you up when your knees buckled, became overstrained itself. And
Yeah, I mean, think of it as even on the micro level, when you don't have the camaraderie anymore, you don't have all the buddies from the fire department don't go to a birthday party together anymore. Everybody's just home, and then when you're at work, you have people telling you to stay away from each other unless you're in the squad.
Yeah, unless you're in the squad.
Patient. And when you get back, you should put your masks in a lunch bag, because the germs, the little fairies, come in that bag overnight before you go on your next shift, and the germs go away.
Right.
So, and the other thing I was thinking too, when you were talking about people schooling, is think about like the fire academy. Why would you want to go when they say you have to get vaccinated, or if you don't get vaccinated, you have to test every day and stay away from each other, and maybe we'll just learn how to tie ropes on a computer.
That was the hardest day in the fire academy.
Yeah.
Ropes and knots day.
The hell with that. I guess I'm just gonna go work at McDonald's. So
Right.
it definitely put a scar, I would say, in the.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing it rebound.
No.
Is the thing, and we're in 2023. So it's a little worrisome.
I will issue a prediction for what it's worth. I'm not Nostradamus, but
speculate. Feel free.
Yeah, this is pure speculation based on a lifetime of experience. The EMS and fire entities as a whole across our state, I don't want to speak for other states, they are not going to rebound, period, in any way, until the economy starts moving towards a direction of stabilization and populous bases in any given township or municipality realize that the practical cost of providing adequate, good EMS and fire service is much higher than what they are willing to pay into, and our tax systems adopt and adapt to that process. This isn't just an argument of firefighters and EMS aren't paid enough. It's a argument also of the fact that every single day they are asked to go out and perform a extremely dangerous, life-threatening job and task, which is never the same. It's never the same with substandard, dangerous equipment, with equipment that is failing, equipment that is patched together with every improbable solution known to man. At 12 noon today, you are dispatched for a meth head with a knife or a gun, and you have to encounter and adapt to that situation, and you don't have adequate safety, security, you don't have adequate law enforcement response, and then
because you got to remember their numbers are down too.
Right,
like
exactly.
A lot.
Yeah, and then at 2:30 p.m. on the same shift, you are, you're performing a search and rescue operation on a 2-story residential fully involved structure fire, trying to find somebody's grandma on the second floor, putting your life at risk in your 10 or 11-year-old past its appropriate date, already been burned 25 times, should be out of service turnout gear, that you can't replace because your tax base won't support the adequate financial investments that need to be done to run your fire department. And people get tired of that. Every day you got to go home and you got to tell your wife that I saved 5 lives today in the worst, most dangerous, unsupported manner for Burger King cash. And that failed, falling apart structural foundation there is equally as responsible for destroying recruitment and retention. So that's my take. It's not going to fix until the tax base and politicians support the investment into doing the job correctly, and that will never happen until the economy begins to rebound.
Yeah,
which isn't coming anytime soon.
The other problem,
True.
The reason, kind of going along with Dustin, the reason that it's not fixed yet is because we keep coming to work. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? We work in shitty conditions.
Yep.
You get paid lousily, but you keep coming to work because it's still the best job in the world.
It
At least
really is.
in my mind, I keep going to work because I love it. You know, even though all those things that you mentioned, I still love coming to work.
Yep.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if everybody keeps doing that, they're like, oh, well, they're still working. We don't need to change anything, you know? I mean,
that just goes back to the beginning of the conversation of like being bred in that environment where you already know what the outlook is and how it's the best job ever. If you're coming in,
right.
nah. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. The new guys, yeah. I think I have ADD because I forgot that we were talking about the new guys, so...
I told you if you didn't give me roadmap, I was going to drift all over the place.
No, you're fine.
Just take new guys.
You know what? I wanted to bring up a subject because you two are the perfect people, and I somehow got you in the same room because
We're going to talk about chicken farming, or...
Because you talked about reading books. Chicken farming. Tim doesn't talk about, but Tim does the same thing you do as far as like tinkering and YouTube and stuff.
Oh, definitely.
So whenever I have a question or a problem, I call both of you or one of you, and then that's how I learn, or you just come back and do it again. So I was talking to the man, Mike Center, the other day. We were sipping bourbon. I don't know when it was. Thanksgiving, maybe? And
okay.
I told him, I came up with this idea. I said, what do you think in our network of friends or any group of guys, what do you think the badge of honor is to be labeled amongst your group of friends that's not fire related? Have any idea?
You mean for...
Just when somebody refers to you. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know that I play the same role in everybody's lives that I play.
Well, there's one...
You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is just my thought. I think it's when someone's referring to you, it's he's a good dude.
Right.
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 So I was kind of spitballing. I think that's like when somebody's saying like Dustin's a good dude.
Right.
Then other alphas in the room are like, okay, you get the head nod like,
Yeah.
okay, you're a good dude.
Right.
So what do you think some of those qualities are? You know, I'm trying to pin them down myself, but like you two both.
Like the qualities of a good dude, or me personally?
Of a good dude.
Of a good dude.
You two both. I can call you.
I think,
and you'll just come.
I think somebody that is gonna answer the phone when you call them. I think
that's a good one.
That's a good quality.
Maybe we should write that down.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about myself being a good dude. That's for somebody else to decide.
Hey, Dustin. You're a good dude.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. That's for somebody else to decide. But I would more instead like to give, the qualities of a good dude. I mean, you can define whatever that is, but
well, they vary. But
I have had a million people teach me a million things, and I have not always been the easiest person to teach, or the easiest person to cultivate, or deal with. And I, like any human on Earth, have had in very volatile ups and downs in my life, like any person has experienced with. And there have been, less than 5% of the people that I've known my whole life have stuck with me. Now, there's always 100 people that'll pick up a phone and ask you for a favor, but the so many bits of my knowledge and life experience have the fingerprint of other people's effort,
right,
and work. And if you were to ask me for a short definition of a good dude, I don't know if I could give it to you, but I can tell you who I trust and am grateful and thankful for, and it's those people who helped me cultivate my ability to be considered by a few people a good dude.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
So you think a big part of the formula is upbringing?
Yeah.
Would you say that's pretty huge?
Yeah. Like your dad is a good example of that. Your dad is always, I'll always be there to help your dad. Your dad was there, whether it was just getting me a glass of water one time or giving me a piece of life advice or being the person who I needed to tell me not to do something. Yeah, because you need to be told things when you're an adolescent.
Right.
And, those things cultivate you into what you are. That's what I would say. Those people who had no reason.
It's pretty deep.
I mean, I just want to get a little deeper, and
Sure.
I was originally going to form it as what makes a high value man, but I don't want to sound like red pilled. You know what I mean? But I do. I kind of want to go over that kind of stuff, and like, it's kind of interesting to me to see if it's like nature or nurture kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Me and Tim got to start competing over skills here.
It's not necessarily skills. It's just
I don't think a certain set of skills would categorize someone as a good dude. For me, someone is a good dude. Somebody you can call and they'll come help you deal with your shit, whatever is on your plate, even if they have no clue what to do.
Right.
They're gonna stand there and help you deal with your shit together.
Right. And they won't bitch about it.
Right. You pick up the phone and be like, hey, can you come help me with this? Or whatever it is in life. They might not know a thing about it. I'm going to keep it PG. But at least they're going to be there with you and they're going to try to help you figure out your shit.
Yeah.
And
kind of in relating to like the small community type thing, Dustin's a good example of somebody who I think he's all about his community. You know what I mean? So,
well, obviously he's helping people get their GEDs and
right.
and not making them sign their life away to the fire department.
But I mean
that's a good dude.
But I mean, the little old lady across the street needs help with something.
Sure.
Dustin's there. You know what I mean? And he never expects anything in return.
Right.
So it's things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just a quality. Like I said, it's kind of like a badge of honor.
Yeah, definitely.
Often you're not in the room when somebody refers to you like that.
Right.
He's a good dude. And I thought that, I haven't heard that before, but that's just kind of in my head.
Right. Now, other people might say that I'm an asshole, but...
Right. Because you can be, but...
I definitely can be an asshole, but I will tell them to their face, why they think I'm an asshole, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That quality just means that you're trustworthy. Right. that type of person's going to tell you the truth.
Can't stand I just can't stand talking about people behind their back. I want them to, I want them to know.
Yeah, that was something instilled to all of us, I think.
Yeah.
And
there's no secrets here.
No. No. Can you talk about the is it Senate bill or House bill? Just a brief, unless you want to talk about the ATF pistol brace ban.
The ATF actually has a webinar coming up about that.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I will not be in attendance.
I don't think I will be either.
So, specifically House Bill 509 is what you wanted to talk about, correct? Or do you want to talk about any
House bill
coming addendums that don't exist yet, or
just let.
Well, what's it about
hear how
anyway?
It's gonna, what it is, and how it's gonna.
Because I've heard some
people.
different stories, and I'm not exactly sure what it all entails.
So, without trying to, I'll leave it to smarter people than me to surmise why they decided to make this decision. But effectively, they're doing away with some of the various levels of instructors for both EMS and fire, and also nursing in our state. And in an industry which is initial education for EMS and fire and nursing, that is overly taxed to begin with, okay, all across our state. And there's a whole host of reasons for that, from economic access to funding to location to reimbursement for initial education, that is causing that system to collapse in on itself. For some reason, in the middle of that tumultuous whitewater of a system that's already collapsing in itself, these people, the governing authorities of the state, have decided to remove the foundational instructor levels, the assistant instructor levels. These are the in-between guys and gals. These are the guys who are there to facilitate all the additional paperwork and all the extra legwork that is required for every capacity of instruction, but also continued instruction. In the state of Ohio, this is one of the most detrimental aspects of this. I hope I explained this adequately here. Fire departments and EMS departments have what's called CE sites, continuing education sites, and you have an instructor, whether that instructor is a full instructor, a CE instructor, a physician instructor, and they teach EMS CE. So let's say Monday night is your training from 7 to 9 p.m. You guys come in tonight, and we're going to teach cardiology, cardiac arrest, 12-lead interpretation, mega codes, all that stuff. You're going to get issued your 2 hours of required cardiac and cardiology continuing education that you need to maintain your certifications to operate as an EMS provider. And ipso facto on the fire side as well, you're getting taught those specific continuing educations that you need. The vast majority of those people at the department level are CE instructors who operate a CE site that is specific to that fire department. Okay, they don't teach initial education courses. They're not teaching people how to become EMTs from the ground up. They're teaching existing certified professional providers continuing education that they need as a mandate to maintain their certification. For reasons that I am not currently able to define, the state has wiped that out of existence. When the effective date, and I've ran multiple now for years and years, when the effective accreditation dates, which are every 3 years, when they are up, I will no longer be allowed to have a continuing education site in my name. Now, I'm a full EMS instructor in the state, so I can still issue continuing education through the initial education site that I operate under, which is Central Ohio EMS Training, which is accessible to anybody who needs continuing education for their needs. And we are working to pattern affordably, almost to the point that it's free, online CE access to remedy this issue in our local area. But the problem is this steals that CE access point away from these fire departments. And it also it bars the initial port of entry for so many people. Very few people started from nothing and went right to full instructor. Most people started as an assistant instructor, whether it's on the fire side or on the EMS side. They cultivated their skills for a few years. They tutored under some more advanced advisors and instructors. They learned.
It's an apprenticeship.
Yeah, they apprentice. So it's almost a journeyman process. And I'm no different. That's how I went through that process before I became a full instructor. I had the opportunity to just learn under a lot of amazing, developed instructors like my mother. And that process is being removed for no reason. So the gate of entry just got not only a lot more expensive, but it got a lot more labor intensive. And now we will statistically be turning out EMS and fire instructors at a much higher volume that do not have any experience or time under their belt before they're turned loose as full instructors to cultivate a skill set that they may not be effectively mastered in yet. But so many EMS and fire instructors would have never become EMS and fire instructors to begin with had they not been able to have a lesser port of entry into the assistant instructor level, where they can learn as the process of being an instructor is very intimidating. It's very labor intensive, and to just go from nothing to that with no in between, with no bridge, is a very daunting, intimidating process. It seems to be in our career profession that the people in charge at the top apparently really like that concept of making access or entry to anything we do as difficult as humanly possible anymore, to make sure it's really worth it to get paid next to nothing. All jokes aside, so this is going to really kink what was already a not very well functioning system, getting the appropriate value and the appropriate volume at the same time of continuing education to the department level to keep people certified with the appropriate amount of CE, but also high quality CE, really cultivating and developing skills, not just, handing them a mayonnaise sandwich. And this has already been a very difficult process, and they took they took what was a 24-inch channel pipe and they cut it down to a 1-inch garden hose. And they are looking everybody in the face going, well, make do. If you don't want to deal with this, either give up your card or make people on your department do what they don't want to do, which is go through the aggressively labor-intensive and educationally intensive process to become a full instructor on your departments that probably won't pay for it. So none of this was taken into consideration. So right now, the few initial education programs like Central Ohio EMS Training, located in Lexington, Ohio, are pivoting very aggressively to create and provide as much online, affordable, if not free, EMS education to people, because very rapidly in the coming future, access to continuing education is going to be almost non-existent because of what they've done.
Do you have any idea why they would have done this? Was it something they had to do to accomplish something else? I mean, because we know how politics work, right? Nothing's ever straightforward.
They're gearing up for the robots to replace us, but go ahead.
Cyborg vampires. I have my theories, but I don't want to put pad to paper or mount the microphone at this point in time, because I want to make sure that I'm speaking with as much accuracy as humanly possible. And this is an evolving process. I know that the State Chiefs Association, several other legal organizations, and I know that unions, EMS and fire unions across the state, are fired up about this. And this just came out, and obviously there's room for adaptation and solutions here. So I don't want to put my foot in my mouth defining my theory of why they did this.
This has been voted on and passed.
Yes, this is effective.
I think it's April. Was it April?
Yeah. When these CE sites, when your accreditation date is up, bingo bango, you're done. That's it.
Usually when these kind of things happen, you hear about them being on the table so you can contact representatives.
Right. I didn't hear anything about this. Not that I've really been watching the news or following anything, but
outside of theory or speculation, this was a complete and total fly-by-night operation. This was not only brushed under the rug was moved with it. This was pushed under the table. Speculation aside, obviously there's some lobbying involved here. And whenever this happens, there's some people trading money from pocket to pocket. Or
no
whatever,
kidding.
But,
so essentially, they do make more money when people have to become full instructors, right?
I don't know if I would describe that that's the angle.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people that are going to pivot from assistant instructor to full instructor is going to be very minimal because of the workload involved in that, and then also the continuous workload to maintain it, which is not light at all.
So if you're an assistant instructor now, come April, you will no longer you're no longer an assistant instructor.
When your card's up.
When your card's up. But
so
past that point, you won't be able to establish anything.
So from April to April.
Yeah. So this is going to create, a hiccup if you micro versus macro, like you said earlier. If you look at just our local area, the initial issue is that any department that doesn't have a full instructor who is accredited with an initial education site or does not have access to a physician instructor, is going to have a continuing education access issue. Okay, now in our local area, our school is working to solve that. Obviously, we're going to get as many people affiliated as possible. But if you go look around,
but the rest of the state
is
screwed.
The vast majority of EMS and fire in Ohio, like so many other states, is rural EMS that is not proximal. It is not proximal to an initial education site. It doesn't have access to huge investable healthcare systems, and these people are out there fighting for their life to be able to perform in this industry that effectively weights down their concrete shoes every single day.
And they would have been a lot more accessible hadn't they made the barrier to accreditation so incredibly hard that nobody wanted to deal with it.
Exactly.
So there's a handful of accredited schools in the state.
The process privately...
This aggression shouldn't stand, man.
The process of maintaining a privately owned EMS school and its myriad of functions, its different levels of education is is so much harder than so many people. You guys know because you've been, affiliated and known us for so long. But the workload that goes into that is demonstrous.
It's ever changing.
And it is ever changing,
Yeah.
and poorly explained when it does change. You're expected to be an attorney, an accountant, a paramedic, an instructor, everything to pivot in a 24-hour notice constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, very difficult. But yeah, so House Bill 509 is going to require a lot of preventative planning on the provider's part. It's a lot of departments will have to pivot with online CE access that they have to pay an arm and a leg for if they're not already paying for that, or cheaper solutions like ours. But the initial provider level, it's always been in most areas that you are never that far or that hard from accessing continuing education. You can get it everywhere. You get it from the hospitals, you can get it from whatever, which is a good thing. That's a great thing that's adapted. It wasn't always like that in the past. It was hard, but you didn't have the requirements that you had in the past. Now the initial provider is going to have to worry a lot more about where am I going to get these integral required continuing educations. I mean, sure, it's easy to get certain things, but other things are very difficult to get. Where do I get my geriatric, my pediatric, my cardiology, my trauma time? How can I source these? So it's going to become very difficult into the future without access to initial education sites creating solutions like that. Your access is going to become very strained and limited. So one more way to punish you for wanting to help people every day.
It's a shame. All right, Timothy.
What's up?
Give me a piece of advice for the younger generation out here.
Well, I would say a piece of advice for the younger generation: don't settle. Don't wait around.
It's gonna get me riled up.
Don't wait around and wait for other people to change. Make your own changes for yourself, and you'll be happy. And keep changing until you are happy.
Yeah. Cool.
I learned that recently. Yeah. So.
A year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago.
D-Hop.
That is an intense question.
Or, my favorite question, give advice to yourself at 18 years old.
Oh, man. If I was to give advice to myself at 18 years old, it would sound something like this. Be more respectful and patient with the people who are trying to make you a better person. If I am marked by anything in life, it's guilt for opportunities that were presented to me that I squandered by people who loved me very much. I was blessed to be surrounded. I still am actually very much blessed to be surrounded by so many people who poured so much into me, and my lack of wisdom as a youth. We all suffer from that, was to ignore and squander so much of that. Thankfully, so many of those people stayed with me. Those are good dudes. So many of those people stayed with me, and when I learned more patience later in life, they impressed upon me those better qualities that they possessed. Specific to the industry of EMS and fire, if you love this job, no matter how much it hurts, do it. I suffer every single day that I get in my truck and I go to work, and I come home happier than anything that I've ever done in my life. And I've been all over the world, and I've seen everything. And I don't want to dissuade anybody from EMS and fire. It's the most fulfilling thing that I've ever put my hands to. It could be better. It absolutely could be better. We, as providers, can make it better. Politicians, as leaders, can make it better. Taxpayers who support their local departments at whatever capacities absolutely could take responsibility and make it better. And there are days where it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but I would not do anything different, and I would not dissuade a single young person from getting involved into this. I've fought wars, I've loved, I've lost, I've seen both sides of the extreme capacities of humanity, and I don't think I'd want to put my time and effort towards anything else on earth than what I've been blessed to have the ability to do now. So that would be my advice. Take everything I've said today with a grain of salt. Please choose to invest in this career path or even if it's not a career, please choose to invest in it in the volunteer capacity. Just bring your good ideas and don't become dissuaded when they're not listened to initially. Fight like we do to make this better every day.
That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you rehearsed that.
Well, there's nothing written on that paper, so I don't think he did.
I just wrote House Bill 509 here.
All right, guys, you got anything else?
Thanks for having us on, man.
No problem. Thanks for talking with me. Later.